I want Aemond Targaryen.
Spoiler alert! One of the most dramatic endings to date for House of the Dragon's second season, Episode 1, has significant ramifications for the remainder of the run. The first episode is very much what one would expect. In keeping with the conclusion of House of the Dragon Season 1, this episode, like many others in the series, focuses on laying the groundwork for the events that will progressively take place in the upcoming episodes. That is accurate for most of its duration before, well, everything changes. In the epilogue, Daemon Targaryen makes plans to murder Prince Aemond Targaryen with two Red Keep employees who go by the names Blood and Cheese in the novel but whose identities are not mentioned. However, they naturally choose the wrong Targaryen prince, brutally killing Jaehaerys, the son of Aegon and Helaena, and making sure the dance of the dragons never ends.
A son for a son, he said.
Welcome to Movie Spy. The conclusion of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1, features Prince Jaehaerys' death. Blood and Cheese manage to slip past King Aegon and inside the Red Keep, but they are unable to locate Aemond. Not that they looked very hard, really. Ultimately, they slay Prince Jaehaerys while holding Helaena at knifepoint, making off with the child's head while his mother escorts Jaehaerys, his sister, to safety. It's a terrifying experience that raises some important issues. Was Daemon ordering Cheese and Blood to kill Jaehaerys? When Daemon gave Blood and Cheese the command to assassinate Aemond Targaryen, he meant it very clearly. What if they are unable to locate him?
What if we can't find him?
Is an intriguing subject that the show surprisingly chooses not to address. When Daemon asks this question, the show cuts away from him. She answers that they were told to make it a son for a son.
A son for a son, he said.
But there is still a lot of room for interpretation regarding what Daemon's true motivations were and whether or not he gave the order to kill Jaehaerys. In the novel, Daemon doesn't visit King's Landing. Instead, Mysaria makes the arrangements at his request, and it's set up to kill one of Aegon's sons rather than Aemond. Thus, the audience is left to form their own opinions, which is presumably the intended outcome, and the source material isn't much use in this situation. It's simple to convince oneself into choosing either response. Daemon is a rogue who is desperate for action following Lucerys' death. He is ruthless, aggressive, and reckless, and he has no qualms about killing. It's easy to see Daemon thinking that killing one of Aegon's sons is the best course of action if killing Aemond is not possible.
Killing Vhagar. I cannot face that hoary old bitch alone.
Although it isn't revenge on Lucerys' killer, the rulers losing one of their offspring is a direct reflection of that death. But would Daemon even do it, really? It's not that he wasn't cruel, rather, it was more that he might have been foolish enough to realize how awful that would appear to Rhaenyra and how the Greens would react. However, it's possible that's precisely what he desires. It goes round and round. Blood and Cheese definitely make enough mistakes to act in desperation on their own, and the scene itself, with Blood's initial hesitancy, might be used to suggest Daemon didn't specifically tell them to do it. Anyway, there is no definitive solution, leaving room for the spectator to take it however they see fit. When Helaena is forced to choose which of her sons will be slaughtered by Blood and Cheese in Fire and Blood, she chooses Prince Maelor, the youngest. Helaena has the ability to indicate which of the twins is the boy, even though he doesn't seem to exist in the TV series. And as Cheese realized later, she was telling the truth when she said, "They killed the boy."
They killed the boy.
Since Helaena is intentionally mysterious and enigmatic, it may be challenging to determine the reasons behind her choice based solely on this episode. Aegon's interest in Jaehaerys early in the premiere is noteworthy, though, as he wants his son to start acting like his heir and attending small council sessions. Helaena responds by asking what would happen if he didn't want to be king. In actuality, Jaehaerys won't have an option. He is destined to inherit the Iron Throne and everything that comes with it just by virtue of being Aegon's firstborn son, ignoring Rhaenyra's claim, anyway, which is something Helaena finds unsatisfactory. She has witnessed firsthand how that kind of power alters individuals and may result in misery for both the crowned person and everyone else seated beneath them. She decides not to let one of her children die, as she is aware that there is no way to stop it from happening. Perhaps more importantly, she made the decision to save the girl, which is probably not what Aegon would have done in the same circumstance. Helaena takes a terrible decision, but she goes with her gut and not what Aegon would have. She won't let another woman be sacrificed so that a man might succeed. There's no escaping the horror of it, but that does seem more consistent with the ideas of House of the Dragon, which could be why, in contrast to the book, the show presented it as a simple boy versus girl option. Blood and Cheese occurs while Criston Cole and Alicent Hightower are sharing a bed. As Blood and Cheese are killing Jaehaerys, Helaena brings Jaehaerys into Alicent's bedroom, where she discovers that Criston Cole is not just with her, but also having sex. One of the more unexpected twists in the first episode is the friendship between Criston and Alicent. It should be especially noteworthy since they were together when Jaehaerys was being killed. Knowing what they were doing during Blood and Cheese will only exacerbate the feelings of self-loathing that already exist in their relationship. Now, both characters ought to be experiencing intense regret and shame. They ought to be thinking, as others probably are, if they might have stopped it if they hadn't been together, Cole in particular. It will be interesting to observe how that affects their future decision-making and story arcs. Jaehaerys' death isn't exactly that of a significant character in and of himself. It's not as though a pivotal figure has been removed. However, as with Lucerys passing, the real significance of his murder lies in what it represents. There is no going back from the Dance of the Dragons at this point, and civil war cannot be averted in any way. Some already saw that as true, but this dispels any doubt. It will be necessary for Aegon to strike back, using more force than before, and Rhaenyra will have to follow suit. There will be nothing left for either side to do but let their dragons loose and set fire to everything in their path. Those who are directly involved will also be impacted. Despite his lack of seriousness as king thus far, Aegon's desire for vengeance is likely to alter. If the book is followed, Helaena will be overcome with grief. As previously said, Alicent ought to be overcome with guilt. Naturally, Rhaenyra will find out as well, and it can cause friction between her and Daemon. The fight is just getting started, and allegiances could be more split. Rhaenyra's plan of retaliation and how Blood and Cheese will alter it. "I want Aemond Targaryen," said Rhaenyra, the one who finally got Daemon to act.
I want Aemond Targaryen.
She was unaware of the devastation that would ensue from his attempt to do that. Though he might have been attempting to bring about a victory, this will probably be perceived as a defeat. Rhaenyra will be held accountable for Jaehaerys' demise, which will be a major blow to her hopes of gaining the favor of the people in Westeros. After Aemond killed Lucerys, Rhaenyra appeared prepared to destroy the world. Now, though, in order to keep things from getting worse, she might have to try to get calmer heads to prevail. That will eventually turn out to be an ineffective endeavor, beyond the capacity of even her to continue. No one will comprehend more than Rhaenyra just how heinous a crime has just been perpetrated. Therefore, expect at least an attempt on her part to try and find another way to put an end to the conflict without the use of dragons. In the first episode of House of the Dragon Season 2, Aegon stands in stark contrast to Rhaenyra. The monarch himself is one individual who is less involved in all of this. He appears in a completely different kind of scene near the end of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1. He is sitting on the Iron Throne, getting wasted, and laughing and joking with his friends. It stands in stark contrast to both Rhaenyra's story and what is happening around him, setting up a counterpoint to the impending murder. She is inconsolable and grieving after losing her son at the start of Episode 1. On the Iron Throne, he laughs at the end, not realizing he's going to lose his. It's a clever parallel that highlights how unfit Aegon was to rule and how Blood and Cheese would compel him to reform. After this, Aegon ought to show a new side that is more impulsive, motivated by rage and retaliation, and that will result in a great deal more bloodshed. Alicent's mother is revealed in the importance of Alicent lighting a candle for Aellaria Florent and Lucerys Velaryon House of the Dragon. Before all the mayhem, there is one more poignant scene in which Alicent Hightower lights candles in remembrance of those who have passed away. She lists her mother, Aellaria Florent, her husband, Viserys Targaryen, and her grandson-in-law, Lucerys Velaryon. The other two names are far more intriguing, but the Viserys part is rather obvious. In addition to being a clever revelation, this is the first instance of Alicent's mother's name and residence being confirmed in the universe. It also has some fascinating background. The emblem of House Florent is a fox surrounded by blue flowers. This is consistent with Alicent's attire from the first few episodes of House of the Dragon Season 1. Her auburn hair and blue outfits allowed her to perfectly embody the house's colors. That meant that in Episode 5, when the divides were really planted, she was more Florent than Hightower, dramatically changing to the green of the latter's flame for war. Meanwhile, naming Lucerys expresses Alicent's regret at his passing. There was no indication that she was close to the boy, so it's more likely that Alicent is grieving the loss of her friendship with Rhaenyra in this instance. That demonstrates that she still harbors feelings for her old buddy, but it remains to be seen if she will allow them to be or whether they may be reached in the House of the Dragon's future.
Otto Hightower was your father's and your great.